This video will show you how to display a single aggregated value on a dashboard. In most cases, when you want to display aggregated data, you'll use a chart or a crosstab. Charts and crosstabs are capable of displaying a large number of aggregated values. However, there are cases when you may want to display just a single aggregated value. For example, the total sales across all states and all years, or the average quantity purchased for a particular category. You can add a single aggregated value to the dashboard by using a text component or a gauge. First, let's look at using a text component. To add text to a dashboard, you can either drag a text component from the component panel and drop it into the dashboard. This creates a new text element which you can edit by double-clicking. Or you can simply double-click in an empty region of the dashboard to create a new text component. In either case, to use the text component to display an aggregated value, simply find the measure that you want to aggregate in your dataset, in this case, the total field, and drag the field onto the text element. The text element is now displaying the aggregated data from the total field. You can move and resize the text element as desired, and then use the buttons in the toolbar to format the text. To perform additional formatting on the text, right-click on the text element and select Format. Here you can specify other formatting properties, such as font settings, color settings, border settings, and alignment settings. You can also specify more detailed numerical formats by selecting the number option under Format and then choosing the number format that you want to use to style the text. To change the aggregation method that the text component is using to aggregate the field, right-click on the text component and select Properties. Then choose the Data tab. Here you can change the field that the text element is aggregating if desired, and you can change the aggregation method as well. The text element responds to selections that the user makes in the same way as the table and the chart. For example, when the user makes selections of different categories, the text element updates to display the aggregated totals for these selected categories. This is because the text element is based on the same data set as the table and the chart, the same data set that is being filtered by the category selection list. To represent a single aggregated value graphically, use a gauge component. To do this, drag a gauge component from the component panel into the dashboard. Then, find the field that you want the gauge component to aggregate and drag the field onto the gauge. In this case, the quantity purchased field. Click on the gauge to select it. Again, you can use the toolbar or the Format dialog box to adjust the formatting for the values in the gauge. In this case, we've just added a comma. The gauge is currently displaying the summed quantity purchased for whatever selections the user has made. In this case, we'd like the gauge to display the average quantity purchased. To change this, right-click and select Properties, and then switch the aggregate property from sum to average. Press OK to change the aggregation method for the gauge. As you can see, this gauge would benefit from some additional precision, so use the Increase Decimal button in the toolbar to change the number of decimals represented in the gauge. For more advanced formatting settings, again, right-click on the gauge and select Format, which will give you access to other formatting properties. As with the text element, this gauge responds to selections that the user makes in the category selection list. This is because the gauge is based on the same data set as the category selection list.